Controversial. Compelling. The Tommy Schnurmacher Show. Hear Tommy live weekdays 9 to noon on CJAD 800.
Syria, China, Iran, economic meltdown in Europe, and crockery in the streets of Montreal. Someone get Trends Journal publisher Gerald Celente on the line. Gerald tells it like it is. He's predicted everything from the U.S. housing crash to the Arab Spring. But what about our own Montreal Spring? We're going to ask him. Gerald, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy.
I don't know if you've been catching any of this, but we're looking more like Greece sometimes these days. The latest is a casserole protest, people banging pots and pans in many districts around town every night at 8 o'clock. It started out as a student tuition protest. It's evolved into widespread social unrest, the likes of which we haven't seen in Montreal in years. And in the meanwhile, we've got a full-blown government inquiry on corruption within our construction industry. Since you're a forecaster and trends analyst, Gerald, where are we headed?
You're headed the same way the United States is. What's the name of that bill that was passed? Was it 78?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Heil Harper. My God, it's a continuation of the raping of rights that really began in the United States.
Hey, by the way, it has nothing to do with Harper. It's not a federal bill; it's a provincial bill.
Right. I'm just saying, but it's the attitude of the nation. And it's just one thing after another. I understand it was from Quebec, but where's the outrage coming from the top? And so what you're looking at as economies are declining, more and more rights are being taken away from people because they know these protests are real. They're not going to stop. As you mentioned, we had forecast the Arab Spring. It had nothing to do with an Arab Spring. That was the re-engineering of it. It's class warfare. It's as simple as that, and that's why we wrote about it before it happened. These people of course they were railing against their dictator because they had no jobs. They're living on $4 a day, and the corruption's at the top of the pyramid all the way down. Whether it's in the construction industry in Canada or anywhere else, the systems are corrupt, and we're seeing a breakdown. And I cannot believe that people are not calling this what it is. A world war has broken out. How much more evidence do people need? And what they're going to continue to do is to keep clamping down on protests. You're not allowed to protest in the United States. It's a joke. Look what happened in Toronto during the G20 meeting. Look what happened in Chicago with the NATO meeting. Look what's happening in Quebec. Look what's happening in Spain. Look what's happening in Portugal. The more the people that protest, the more they're going to clamp down.
Then, are there some areas where it's going to be worse than others, Gerald?
Yes, it's going to be worse in Europe, and it's going to start breaking out in the United States as well. They're going to try to hold things together until the election. And by the way, with the Greece issue and the euro crisis, what they're simply going to do, we believe, the same thing that China's doing. That's going to be another hot spot. They have 1 billion plus people and 1 million problems. Construction is way down. Their housing market's collapsing. What they're going to all do is dump more money into.
Yes, we just heard that announcement on the news. They have a new stimulus plan.
And they're going to do the same thing in Europe. They're going to come with some kind of version of the euro bond. That's all they're doing. They're keeping the scam going, the Ponzi scheme. They'll do the same thing in the U.S. So the poorer the country, the more the louder the protest. It's as simple as that.
514-790-0991. Star Talk. Text your question for Gerald Celente. You can text it to 514-800. On the issue of Iran, a while ago when you mentioned that if there's an Israeli or U.S. military strike against the nuclear facilities in Iran, that would be a catastrophe. At the time, you were alone. Now, one Israeli official after another seems to be agreeing with you, the former director of the Mossad, the former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, and the current Israeli Army Chief of Staff, General Benny Gantz. So what happened? How come they're all seeing what you saw a while ago?
Because they know what a disaster it will be, and they know that they have psychopaths in power. And actually, they're using language similar to that. And they're saying how out of control these leaders are in Israel. you look at what they're talking about now with what's going on in Syria. And by the way, a lot of misinformation coming out, reports that some of those photos that were used were actually from Iraq back in the middle of this past decade so we're getting a lot of misinformation. But what does Netanyahu come out and say? Iran has a hand behind it. What are they saying in the U.S.? Iran is behind what's going on in Syria. So you can see them setting it up, because first it's going to be Syria, then they're going to blame it on Hezbollah in Lebanon, and then it's Iran. And we're very fearful of that. And, you know, it's like that old movie, Wag the Dog, whereby the president diverts the people's attention away from the real issues by going into these other conflicts. And that's what we see happening here. There's no economic recovery going on. They're going to continue to use more and more of the international theater to get the people's minds off the problem at home.
One of the top 10 trends for 2012, as forecast by the Trends Journal, was a secession obsession, mentioning winds of change from Tunisia to Russia, and we're going to see decentralization, secession, and even the peaceful dissolution of nations. That's according to one of the predictions in the Trends Journal. The publisher, Gerald Celente, on the line. Which countries do you see dissolving in 2012 or 2013, Gerald?
Well, you're going to start seeing, actually, in the United States, after this election, we're going to start seeing more and more of these secession movements, like the one going on up in Vermont that seems to be gaining traction. And we're going to start seeing it, you may even start seeing it in Canada again. Most likely you will. You'll see it in Russia. They're going to be breaking up more and more. And you're also going to see the breakup of the European Union at some point, the monetary union, that is. The Greek problem is unsolvable, and that's a small one. It's only 2% of the GDP in the 17-member European Monetary Union zone. And you're looking at Spain, that's going to have, they're $1 trillion in debt. Italy over about $2.5 trillion. So you're going to start seeing breakups in different ways. One size does not fit all.
Okay, we're getting some interesting text questions for you. One's asking if you see a revolution starting in Quebec.
You know, I don't know enough about it, by the way, because one of the things, we don't get much press on it at all. And most of the information I've been getting is being sent to me by people from Montreal, and also watching, who would have believed this, Russian and Chinese TV.
We're getting coverage on Russian.
The American media is barely reporting on it at all, and they'll only come up with a very short story. But CCTV, the Chinese station, and RT, Russia Today, have been covering it extensively. So, yeah, I can see it breaking up over there.
Okay, Steve from NDG has an interesting question. He says, what do you think this might be the beginning of the Illuminati master plan, or at least an open door to begin?
No, I don't believe in the Illuminati, because if there's an Illuminati, they have the un-Illuminati in charge. I mean, it's a freak show as I look at it. So I just think it's systems breaking down. It all starts with greed, as I see it, because this all goes back to the financial collapse. And the financial collapse was built upon cheap money, hooking people into it, just like people buy, cheap food and drink stuff they shouldn't be drinking, sodas, etc. Advertising is very powerful. The people are advertised into keep buying and spending, and the money junkies just kept putting the money out there. So this is a financial collapse, and this is the result of it, is the way I see it.
Tell me about the part of the trend you're seeing for repatriation. You're saying that we're going to see fewer multinationals, that the multinational corporations are going to be breaking up?
What we're saying is you're going to see more and more of a retrenchment against globalization. As a matter of fact, when you look at the elections that have been held in Greece, in Italy, and in France, all of them have pushed forth major parties. They're calling them even in Serbia, they're calling them nationalistic parties, and they put labels on them about and make them seem like fringe movements. Yes, maybe in some instances, but in every instance, it's about let's build our country first. Let's do business with each other. That's not such a radical idea. Matter of fact, one to really watch, as I believe is worth watching, is the one in Italy, the Five-Star Movement, led by Beppe Grillo, a satirist. And it has become now, in the local elections, in the regional elections, it's the number 3 party. We are going to see, Tommy, new parties rising up around the globe that are going to, the multinationals are going to make it look like, these are xenophobic people and they're right-wing crazies. But it's not that. It's more of we need to build our industry and infrastructure, deal with each other before we start buying from other people. Because if we don't build it and make it, how are we going to buy it? That's going to be the philosophy, and we think it's going to be a big one.
And that's going to be trouble for China. We'll continue our discussion with Gerald. Gordon wants to know, when will the States take over Canada to feed their never-ending need for water and natural resources? Our guest, Trends Journal publisher Gerald Celente. What about that question, Gerald?
Well, they'll do it through the guise of doing business. That's all it ever is. I just want to mention something about what's going on and how volatile the situation is. I mean, the headlines are reading right now: U.S. Special Forces parachuted into North Korea. They're doing undercover operations. And then the next one is Romney warns, quote, "world not safe." Western nations expel Syrian diplomats. U.S. threatens to use force in Syria after massacre. I mean, Romney warns world not safe? Gee, I wonder why. It couldn't be the United States invading Afghanistan. Oh, it couldn't be the Iraq War, could it? It couldn't be that President Obama, the big story in the New York Times, signs off on all these drone attacks going on in Yemen, Somalia, and in Pakistan. It couldn't be that there's also reports the United States and other nations are sending arms into the, quote, rebels into Syria. It couldn't be the Libyan war that they started, NATO. No, none of the world is not safe, so I have an idea. I'm going to run for president, and we're going to kill everybody. I mean, these people are out of their minds, and they report this as though it's sane. Yeah. I mean, this guy Romney really rubs me. You know what he was doing during the Vietnam War? He's my age. He was doing missionary work. I mean, check it out. 1960s, doing missionary work as a Mormon to convert all Catholic, cigarette-smoking, wine-loving, caffeine-addicted, Brigitte Bardot-loving French into Mormonism. And this guy's now talking about we have to expand our military. I hate these little chicken hawks. Hey, Mittens, send your 5 boys to go fight or shut your mouth. Because all of these politicians, Tommy, during this election year are going to ratchet up the war talk. And you're going to see those yellow ribbons and those flags flying. Mark my words.
Okay, let's go to the phones. Keith on the line from the nation's capital. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerald. When I want the truth, I tune in to Gerald Celente. Gerald, just make sure you don't have an accident in the next little while. But my question is, I've got 2 short questions. Is it going to be inflation or is it going to be deflation? Robert Prechter keeps on saying it's going to be massive deflation. And the second question is, will state and provincial debt be the spark, the straw that breaks the camel's back in North American currencies?
Okay, good questions, yeah.
Yeah, the first question is a difficult one. By the way, I'm still very bullish on gold. And just so anybody listening, I have no, skin in this. We don't take advertisements, and we don't work for any of the gold companies or anything. So I just believe gold prices are going to continue to rise because of the currency problems. Will it be inflation or deflation? I don't know. One of our contributors, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant Treasury Secretary of the Reagan, believes in the inflation. I don't don't know, because as world economies slow down, you're going to start seeing a decrease in commodity prices, as we're already seeing. So it's a tough call. As for the second question, yes, the state issues are going to be huge, and put on top of that pensions and benefits from public employees.
We're going to have you back.
This is the Tommy Schnurmacher Podcast. Listen to the show live, weekdays 9 to noon on CJAD